son, Rocky Balboa. We'll get to that too. His son will also make a cameo in this film, but he was a recast from his own son, who sadly passed away. So there's been a couple recasts in this franchise, the Rocky and Creed franchise, and Felicia Rashad, Mrs. Huxtable, is one of them. She was not the original Marianne Creed in this franchise, but she basically took over the role and she adopted him, as. And
she still looked like Mrs. She still looked like Mrs. Huxtable.
She looks pretty damn good. Yeah,
she looked pretty good for in the 80s. She would look like that. Ages. So
yeah,
she's definitely got the magic. Her and Dolph Lundgren basically have the magic pill to look pretty good for their age. I mean, again, I don't know if Sylvester Stallone just making him look that old, but he looked pretty old in this film. He looked out there.
No, and Stallone knew that. He couldn't just look how he looked as it, because if you look at Rocky Balboa, the 2006 film, he's in like tremendously like roided shape for whatever Rocky would, because you look at Rocky as a broken, brain damaged man, and Rocky 5, and then he looks like a totally jacked up old man, who has one last fight in him. It's like a totally different. It's like that's the real Rocky 6, or Rocky 6 is like the real Rocky 5. But they do a good job showing him kind of like he tried to paint himself as much as he can as the Mickey character, and he does a good job. Sly being involved with this film as he has writing most of them or co-writing them. Either way, he's crafted a good tale here. I mean, is it kind of a cliched or something? The movie was built around the premise that had to happen because it's a built-in storyline. As soon as you have a Creed, what do we remember Apollo Creed's last appearance in a Rocky franchise? Dying at the hands of Ivan Drago in Rocky 4. So this inevitably had to happen. Did they jump the gun a little bit? They didn't do the rematch with because he's in jail. The character from the first Creed.
Creed 1.
Yeah, I believe that was Ricky Conlon. That's it. The Ricky Conlon character is quote unquote in jail. So, this is the fight that had to happen to build a movie around. So I mean, is it filled with some cheese along the way? Sure, but it sets up the big fight and really it's good. I mean, the last part of this film I think really carries it and hammers it home for me, and it shows again it's tying into the father things. You got Creed coming back on this big Russian, Victor Drago, and it ends with Ivan having to throw in the towel to save his son over the reputation of himself.
Now let's go to that fight too. Okay, so Creed's getting he comes out and he's a new man. The first one he's obviously got this this whole thing going on with him where he's got a lot of vengeance. He's angry. They got him all worked up. He's trying to fight out of anger. And then the second fight, he comes out there and now he's like, he's a little more calm. He's been reborn in the desert out there boxing, and just out of nowhere, he finds himself because he's out there fighting and doing unorthodox training. He realizes that, we talked about they played the Rocky music when he finally realized that he needed to do this. And again, that always brings a tear to my eye. I get a little crybaby in me when I hear that Rocky music. But then all of a sudden he's reborn. He goes to Russia. And then you forgot to talk about the part where out of nowhere his future wife's a singer somehow, and she comes out singing his entrance, which is like the movie Great White Hype with Damon Wayans Jr. or whatever. He comes out there and Damon Wayans is the boxer and the other dude's rapping and everybody's out there dancing around. Again, stole something from a movie. And then I'm thinking to myself, you think Russia would really set up all this technical stuff for them to make sure this guy gets a good entrance? And he's in Russia. and then this is supposed to be like a redemption for the Russians. Why would they give him any type of advantage? So she comes out, she's singing just out of nowhere, and it's pretty bad entrance music in my opinion. I think I'd want something a little more upbeat. And then he goes in there and he's feeling all cool, and then he just comes out and just starts beating his ass. And then it kind of changes back and forth during the fight. But the part that turned, just like in Rocky IV when he fights him, is he cut him. He punched him hard enough and he cut him. And then all of a sudden that changed the fight, right?
Yeah.
So he all of a sudden, now he's battling back. And then the fight goes exactly the way the fight should be. I think if you really wanted to make this realistic, he should have just beat his ass again. Just beat his ass again. Creed loses. He get a little humility. He's got to go home and think about what he's done. You know, thinking I can't find a guy who's 260 pounds and I'm only 190. You know, that's pretty much
what
it looked
again,
like.
We got to suspend our disbelief. I mean, in realistic forms, he's a light heavyweight fighting a super heavyweight.
No,
I mean, really,
I want real. I want real movie facts. I want there to be. I like it. Like all of a sudden he's just beating up the Russian, and then some Russian dude just comes in and stabs him, like in the movie, like the Gladiator movie, where he knows he can fight at the end. He stabs him and kind of injures him, and then nobody sees it, and then the fight gets a little more like there's an advantage. So, but again,
it's cool how he kind of had the morning tights. They were the black Creed tights. The kind of was the black armband.
The one that looked like they were burnt.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool. I liked kind of how he did there, and I mean the music with her surprising and singing him to the ring. Didn't really do too much to me. I mean, you know, the thing I think as you're talking about the prevailing theme of fatherhood in this film, you know, he's fighting for his daughter. He's fighting for the thing, and I think that's where he kind of finds out what's important and what he's fighting for, and a lot of that theme it shows up in the end. You know, when we get back to the finish of this fight, I asked family members, if they did you have any feelings for the Dragos at that? They didn't care. They're like, they killed Apollo, and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, he said, if he dies, he dies. He didn't actually set out to kill him. He was just bred as a Soviet fighting machine at the time. They kind of humanized the Dragos, and like I said, it's been bandied about that in the works before, just mainly because, like you said, Dolph has done a lot of work. He looks pretty good still, and Dolph has stayed relevant enough in Hollywood where this was a softball. When you created a Creed franchise, well, Drago kind of got revitalized. So it's been bandied about. Hey, could we do a Drago movie? And I think this very much, kind of as much as it was a Creed legacy film, this was a Drago film, and I think that's what they've kind of tried to say. Hey, these are kind of human beings still. And it showed the love of his son was more important than the love of the country. So, and I thought that was cool. And they ended up with them, in the epilogue of the film, with them jogging together instead of him, training him like a monster. He was there running alongside his son. So I thought that was pretty cool.
And his running technique looked pretty bad, man. He shouldn't have been running. Looked like his knees were hurting him.
Probably are.
Yeah, you looked at him. He looked like he was running on like tacks or something, the way he was bobbling around. Yeah. If I was his son, I would have been like, run faster. When I tell you to run faster, and if I was his son, I would have slapped him and threw him on the ground like he did early in the movie. Like, when I tell you to run faster, and just start beating his dad up.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't the theme they were trying to show.
I know they were trying to get to the whole father and
Rocky visits his son in Vancouver, I think he said it was, and he sees his grandson. I don't know if that's seeing his grandson for the first time in a long time, if not for the first time, enough where his grandson didn't know who he was. But so we meet Logan Balboa, potentially a future fighter in the Rocky universe. We see I don't know, I forget her name, what they named Little Creed, and she maybe that's somewhere those two will meet somewhere down the road. He takes his family to the grave of Apollo and says some nice words there, and we finished the movie kind of with that theme of fatherhood and stuff, which it worked for me. The last part of the film, especially hammers it home. And if you end on a good note,
why do you think that they focused on bringing up the part that his daughter, because his wife was obviously had hearing issues,
she was going down,
and so they thought they had to bring up the daughter was going to be deaf. Why do you think that they had to bring that into the movie?
I think just maybe a realism factor. It's not all. I mean, remember the old Rocky speech that he says in Balboa, the world isn't all sunshines and rainbows. I think the whole Rocky franchise built around that. They've killed characters off. They've had to deal with loss and pain. And I think this was just another thing of like, to giving them something to fight for, give them a little just adversity in there, showing, hey, this is not all perfect scenario. If this is hereditary, which it's, on the mom's side, all that stuff is, that was a possibility. They didn't say definitely, but it was alluded to when he threw the tantrum in the gym when he was watching a girl that she didn't hear him. She wasn't crying. So a lot of that type of stuff. And a funny moment when he says, your dad's a bitch. Crying like one, he said. So, yeah, I think just maybe that. I mean, I thought if it was a son who was, if it would have been a son, maybe you would have had that deaf fighter or something like that kind of growing up and maybe a future Creed, but, maybe
that would have been an advantage, a deaf fighter. That would have been a good advantage because then you never heard the bell. Just boom, boom, just keeps punching people.
Keeps fighting.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, Bell. And he's like, oh, are you here? He could just, he just doesn't even speak.
So,
And they're like, what the? You got to hear this. So, but now he has a daughter, and again, we don't want to say that it's
Balboas and Creeds will, maybe the grandson Balboa and the granddaughter Creed will meet up one day.
I already told you the scenario of this movie is Logan, the grandson of Rocky, is going to be the accountant for Adonis Creed, and then he's going to find out that he's stealing money from him, and then the daughter is going to confront him, and then they're going to have to fight, and there's going to have to be a fight, and then she's going to be a boxer because we don't want to say that you can't be a boxer.
MMA fighter.
Yeah, so she's going to be an MM fighter. That's to be the new twist. It'll be MMA, and then Logan will have to train.
She'll be trained by Mickey Rousey.
No, so that'll come out too, is Mickey will then have a grandson or something that's still a trainer, and he'll show up and he'll train Logan, and then Logan will have to learn how to fight UFC style to fight Adonis's kid, and that'll be the new Rocky movie. Is these guys will all have to brawl.
She'll fight Rousey, an older version of Ronda Rousey who's on her last legs. Fighting.
Yeah. By the time Ronda Rousey will be her mentor. She'll be the Mickey for her, and then there'll be a Mickey grandson for Rocky's kid, Rocky's grandson Logan, and then they'll all come together and they'll just tie this whole humongous Rocky series into one, and then there'll be, like I said, at the end when you'll see a ghost character, like you said, the Star Wars trilogies, where there'll be Rocky, Apollo, Adrian, Mickey, Paulie, will all be in like a ghost in the clouds, giving their thumbs up.
Jedi ghosts. Jedi ghosts in the cloud.
Just giving their thumbs up, like we think fighting's the way. Like if you can't do anything in life, you should fight. You should just fight and brawl.
I had a question for you before, and just to kind of just like, do you think this was missing like a voiceover from an Apollo, or do you think, obviously you don't seem to be a fan like that would have been too cheesy to bring that in there. They brought Mickey back in 5 for.
I think they should have done, like I said, when he was running in the street and he fell, and he was having all these flashbacks. They should have had a little cameo of Apollo holding a baby, and he was like talking to the baby, and he's like, "Listen, little Adonis, one day you're gonna struggle, and you're gonna have to fight." And you're going to have to fight your way out, because not everything is gumball and rainbows, like Rocky says. And you're going to have to brawl. And one day you're just going to be laying in the street, staring at the asphalt, saying, "I need to avenge you, Father. Avenge me." And then you're going to rise up to the sound of the Rocky score music. And for some reason, everything will go away.
He never held his daughter. He never he never held a son technically. So I mean, being born.
No,
after
I thought his kid was in the audience during the fight.
No, his son was born after he died, according to the first Creed. So
it's not his son then. Obviously, Mrs. Creed went and got a fling.